Okay, so once again, very good morning all. Whether my voice is audible, anyone please reply.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So in the last lecture, we have started with the chapter number 1, that is simple stress and strain. And in the yesterday's lecture, we have covered all the basic concepts, or we have covered all the basic definitions of the stress, strain. Then there are subtypes like tensile stress, compressive stress, tensile strain, compressive strain, then a linear strain value, lateral strain value. In addition to that, we have covered the basic introduction related to the elastic constant, that is elastic constant E, G, and K. Also, we have discussed their definitions and how the E will be applicable for the linear stress and linear strain, then how G will be applicable for the shear stress and the shear strain, and how the K will be applicable for the volumetric stress and strain. So that basic introduction related to the all the elastic constants, their definitions, their formulas, we have discussed in the yesterday's lecture. Now, in the today's lecture, we will discuss about the deformation of body due to the external load or due to the axial load. So, what happened when the deformation is taking place? In the yesterday's lecture, we have discussed when the member or if any body, if it is subjected to the external load, then and then only the stress will be induced in that body or strain will be induced. If there is no any external load, or if the member or the body is not subjected to the external load, then nothing is developed in the body remains at its original position only. But whenever we have to go for the testing of the material, if we have to go for the testing of the material, it is necessary to apply the some amount of load on that particular body. Due to that external load, what happen? The body is subjected to the deformation. Some amount of deformation is taking place. That means body changes their original position. Maybe sometimes dimensions are increases, or maybe dimensions are decreases. No problem. But body changes its original position. Now, what is our requirement? If such bodies are subjected to the external load at that time, whatever the deformation is taking place due to that load, that deformation we have to calculate. Then how the deformation will be calculated? Which formula we have to use? So for that purpose, this is the one figure in front of you. So if you look at here, so this is the one figure. So that figure is fixed at the top side. This is the condition number 1 and this is the condition number 2. Two figures are there. One is for the condition number 1, another is for the condition number 2. Okay, so what is the boundary condition? What is the construction of this particular figure? That is, a one bar is there, that is bar BC. Okay, this is the bar BC having the cross sectional area A. This is the bar BC having the cross sectional area A, and this bar is fixed at the top side. The bar is fixed at the top side and the bottom side is totally free. Okay, the original length of the bar will be considered as a capital L. Now, in the second condition, what they have represented, same bar is there, which is fixed at the top side, and at the bottom side, the P amount of force is applied. That this P represents the external load applied on the body, or the external load applied on this particular circular bar. This external load, it is also called as a axial load. Why it is called as axial load? Because it is applied along the axis. So if I will draw the center line, if I will draw the center line of this particular bar, so this P amount of force is applied along the vertical axis. Therefore, this P is called as a axial load also, as well as it is applied at the external side. Externally, it is applied on the body. Therefore, it is called as a external load. So what happened? Due to this P amount of force applied in the downward direction, the deformation is also taking place. So you can see here. The figure number 1 represents the original body, that is load is not applied. Figure number 2 represents the after the application of load in the downward direction, some amount of deformation is taking place in the downward direction, and that deformation is represented by delta. And now what is our requirement? This delta value we have to calculate, because so many times without any deformation it is not possible to calculate the strength, it is not possible to calculate the stress value, strain value, or any value. But now here in this particular concept, what is our requirement? How much amount of deformation is taking place due to this external load P. For example, this load I can consider it as a 50 kilonewton. Okay, due to this 50 kilonewton force, how much deformation is taking place, that I have to calculate. Then how it is to be calculated? So for that purpose, we have to define the standard formula. We have to define the standard formula. So as we know that in the yesterday's lecture, we are having one standard formula as a capital E. Capital E is equal to stress upon strain. This formula we are having, that is Young's modulus is equal to stress upon strain. But which stress? Linear stress upon linear strain. Linear stress upon linear strain. Why it is linear? Because this sigma is developed in the direction of force. बघा P कुठल्या डायरेक्शन मध्ये अप्लाय केलेला आहे? वर्टिकल डायरेक्शन मध्ये. त्याच डायरेक्शन मध्ये इंड्यूस झालेल्या स्ट्रेसला आपण काय म्हणतो? Linear stress म्हणतो. Similarly, this epsilon is called as a linear strain. Why it is called as a linear strain? Because the strain induced in the direction of force. What is the direction of force? Vertical, or I can say it as a y-axis. Okay, so whatever the strain induced in vertical direction or strain induced in y direction is called as a linear strain, and stress induced in vertical direction or stress induced in y direction, that stress is called as a linear stress. And by using linear stress and linear strain condition, we have defined one constant. That constant is called as a Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity. Okay, so this is the first value. Now, if I will rearrange the terms, I am having the formula capital E is equal to sigma upon epsilon. If I will write down the same equation in the form of epsilon, so epsilon is equal to sigma upon capital E. Sigma upon capital E. This is the equation number 1. Epsilon is equal to sigma upon capital E. Okay, so how it is defined? By using the definition of Young's modulus. Now, you are having one more value, or we are having the one more definition for the strain. What is the definition of strain? Change in dimensions upon original dimension, or change in length upon original length. Now, in this particular figure, the change in length is indicated by delta. So I will write down the delta, and original length is indicated by capital L. So this is capital L. This is the equation number 2. So if I will compare equation number 1 and 2 with each other, so their left hand sides are equal. That is LHS is equal to RHS. Left hand sides are equal, but how it is equal? Here also strain is there, here also strain is there. If left hand sides are becomes equal, then this right hand sides are also become equal. So I will write, that is sigma upon capital E is equal to delta upon L. Sigma upon capital E is equal to delta upon L. But what is our requirement? We have to calculate the delta. We have to calculate the delta. So if I will write down the same equation in the form of delta, so I will write here at the left side. So by rearranging the terms, delta is equal to sigma into L divided by E. Delta is equal to sigma into L divided by E. And as we know that sigma is equal to, what is the definition of stress? Stress is equal to force upon area. Stress is equal to force upon area. Therefore, delta is equal to PL upon AE. Delta is equal to PL upon AE. The sigma is replaced in the form of P upon A. L is as it is, E is as it is. And this is the standard formula for the deformation calculation. So what is the standard formula you got? Deformation delta due to external load is equal to PL upon AE. P means external force applied on the rod. L means original length. A means cross-sectional area of the rod, and capital E means Young's modulus. Means whenever the body is subjected to the external load or axial load, their deformation can be calculated by using the formula delta L is equal to PL upon AE. And how this formula is defined? Because by using the concept or by using the definition of Young's modulus E, sigma upon strain. By rearranging the terms, I have written the equation number 1 in the form of strain value. Again, you are having the definition of strain, change in dimensions upon original dimensions. Okay, change in dimensions upon original dimensions, that is delta L upon L. Then I have compared equation number 1 and equation number 2. So left hand side becomes equal. If LHS is equal, then right hand sides are also becomes equal. Then I have compared both equation number 1 and 2 by rearranging the terms, and by replacing the sigma in the form of P upon A, I have written the deformation value or deformation formula, that is delta or delta L. This delta is also called as a delta L, which is equal to PL upon AE. This formula is applicable only for that condition where member, body, rod, they are subjected to the external load only. If there is an external load, then and then only we can use this delta L formula for the deformation calculation. And in this particular subject, in whole subject, whatever the 8 chapters we are going to study, in that all the 8 chapters, whatever the number of bodies, whatever the number of rods, whatever the number of components we are considering, all the components are subjected to the external load only. Without external load, sorry, without external load, without any external force, deformation calculation is not possible. Therefore, in all the conditions, in all the chapters, every member body, it is subjected to the external load, and for all the types of such conditions we have to use this single formula only, delta L is equal to PL upon AE. So you have to keep this particular formula. You can write, already I have told you have to prepare the notebooks, and whatever the things I'm explaining here, immediately you have to write down their heading. If possible, you have to draw the figures and write down all the important definitions, all the important formulas simultaneously in your notebook. So this is the deformation formula when body is subjected to the external load. This is the condition number 1. Now, second condition, deformation of body due to self weight. Deformation of body due to self weight. Self weight means there is no any external load. In the condition in the previous figure, what is the condition in the previous figure? This is the condition. Here the P is visible. Whatever the external force P is applied at the bottom side, it is totally visible on the body because it is externally applied. But in this second condition, the name itself suggests that, heading itself suggests that deformation of body due to the self weight. So what is the condition? What that figure represents? So again here you can see the rod. One rod is there which is in vertical directions. Okay, this is the original length of the rod. Okay, and this rod is fixed at the top side. This rod is fixed at the top side, and bottom side is totally free. But at the bottom side, no any external force applied. In the previous condition, external force P is applied at the bottom side, and due to this only deformation is taking place. But here, no external force, the body, this body, it is in hanging position. It is fixed at the top side and the bottom side is totally free. Means I can say that this particular body is in hanging position. So if such bodies are in hanging position, what happen? Whatever the self weight of this particular body is there, that self weight is applied in the downward direction, and that self weight is indicated by capital W. As we know that always, whatever the weight of the vehicle is there, or sorry, not vehicle, weight of the components or weight of the body is there, it is always acting in the downward direction. Self weight of the body due to the gravitational force, the weight of any body or member, it is acting in the downward direction. Similarly, this body, it is in hanging position, so the self weight of this particular body is also acting in the downward direction. So now in such conditions, due to the self weight of the body acting in the downward direction, here also some amount of deformation is taking place. In the previous figure, deformation is taking place because external force is applied, but here due to the self weight of the body, it is acting in the downward direction. There is also possibility of deformation. So in such condition, how to calculate the deformation value? Then for that, this is the standard formula we have to use, that is delta L is equal to WL square upon 2E. So what is that W? W represents the self weight of the body which is given. So this rod which is fixed at the top side and the bottom side is totally free, and their dead weight or their self weight is acting in the downward direction, and that self weight is given to you as a given parameter. Okay, so that W I can put here. Length of the rod is also given as a given parameter, 2 into E. This E is the constant parameter, that is Young's modulus. By putting all the values in this particular equation, that is WL square upon 2E, I can calculate deformation of body due to self weight. Means जरी एखाद्या बॉडीवर आपण लोड अप्लाय केलेला नसेल तरी पण त्या बॉडीचं काही वेळा डिफॉर्मेशन आपल्याला झालेलं अज्युम होतं, किंवा it is also appearing. Where it is happening? Whatever the heavy duty machines are there in the industry, so in that particular heavy duty machines, such types of heavy components are there, and on that heavy components we are not applying the external force, but their self weight is always acting in the downward direction due to the gravitational force. As we know that due to the gravitational force, the self weight of the body or any component is always acting in the downward directions. So due to that self weight, sometimes deformation is taking place. म्हणजे जरी आपण बॉडीवर एक्सटर्नल फोर्स अप्लाय केला नाही तरी पण त्या बॉडीचं सेल्फ वेट हे डाऊनवर्ड डायरेक्शन मध्ये ऍक्ट झाल्यामुळे त्या हेवी ड्युटी कंपोनंटचं डिफॉर्मेशन होण्याचे चान्सेस काय असतात? जास्त असतात. मग जर एक्सटर्नल फोर्स दिला नसेल आणि तरी पण डिफॉर्मेशन होत असेल तर इन सच कंडिशन हाऊ टू calculate the deformation? So this is the formula. This is the condition number 2, that is deformation of body due to the self weight. And then what is the formula? WL square upon 2E. So this W value is also known to you as the self weight of the body. By putting this value W, length and Young's modulus, easily I can calculate the deformation of body due to self weight. And what is the formula for the deformation of body due to the external load? Delta L is equal to PL upon E. This is the formula number 1 and this is the formula number 2. If you compare both the formulas, delta L is same because this is the required value we have to calculate. But in the formula number 1, P represents external force applied on the body due to which deformation is taking place. But in the second formula, W represents the self weight of the body which is acting in the downward direction. Therefore, that W we have to consider as an important parameter during the deformation calculation where no external forces are applied. And in such heavy duty components, such situations are there in the industry. म्हणजे जरी आपण एक्सटर्नल फोर्स अप्लाय केला नसेल आणि काही दिवसांनी किंवा काही वर्षांनी जर आपण त्या कंपोनेंटचे डायमेन्शन मेजर केले तर त्याच्या सेल्फ वेट मुळे आपल्याला डिफॉर्मेशन झालेलं दिसेल. मग अशा कंडिशन मध्ये आपण सेकंड फॉर्म्युला यूज करायचा डिफॉर्मेशन काढण्यासाठी. आणि जर आपल्याला माहित असेल ह्या मेंबरवर किंवा ह्या बॉडीवर आपण एक्सटर्नल फोर्स एवढ्या क्वांटिटीचा अप्लाय करतोय तर आपल्याला किती लोड आपण अप्लाय केलेला आहे तो आपल्याला माहित आहे. At that time we can use the formula number 1 for the deformation calculation. Okay, so these are the two conditions for the deformation calculation, that is deformation due to the external force, that is P, and deformation due to the self weight of the body, that is W. And as we know that self weight of the body, कुठली जरी बॉडी घेतली तर त्याचं self weight due to the gravitational force acting in the downward direction, त्यामुळे कुठल्या पण मेंबरचं किंवा कुठल्या पण बॉडीचं जर हँगिंग पोझिशन मध्ये असेल तर त्याचं सेल्फ वेट हे कायम डाऊनवर्ड डायरेक्शन मध्येच असणार आहे. दॅट्स वाय we have to consider that W as a given parameter in the second condition. Okay, so these are the two important conditions required for the deformation calculation. Okay, I hope you have taken these particular figures along with their important formulas in your notebook. Yes, anybody is having any question? Someone needs make their mic on. Yes. Anything? Okay. We will move to the next part now. Now, very important thing, that is stress strain curve for the ductile material. This is very important, stress strain curve for the ductile material and the stress strain curve for the brittle material. So what that particular stress strain diagram, that we have to understood. And now here, whatever the ductile material we have considered, that ductile material will be the mild steel. So whatever the ductile material we have considered, that ductile material will be the mild steel. So now what is meant by the stress strain curve? From which testing this curve is obtained. So in the previous lecture, or I think maybe in the yesterday's lecture, we have discussed about the tensile testing of the material by using the universal testing machine. So whenever we are performing the test by using the UTM for any rod or for any plate, so through this particular tensile testing, you will get this particular graph, that is stress strain curve for the ductile material. So this is the graph which is totally generated or which is totally obtained from the tensile testing of the component. So whenever we are performing the tensile testing, you will get such types of the graph as a stress strain curve for the ductile material. And now here for this explanation, which ductile material I have considered, that is mild steel. So now why it is called as a stress strain curve? Because if you look at here, there is a two axis is there. This is x axis and vertical. This is the y axis. So on x axis, we have considered as a strain parameter. On y axis, we have considered as a stress parameter. So when the stresses and strains are developed, because when member, for example, let us see here, I will draw one figure just for your reference. This is one vertical plate. Okay. This is capital P. This is capital P. It is having the cross-sectional area A. Okay. So let us assume that this particular component, it is fitted in the UTM machine and we are applying the P amount of external force on that particular plate. So this plate may be circular in cross section or it may be in rectangular cross section, no problem. Okay. So what happened? Due to this P amount of force is applied on this particular plate, their deformation is taking place. Their deformation is taking place. If deformation is taking place, means in this particular plate, some amount of stresses are also induced, because you know the stress is equal to force upon area, and strain is equal to delta L upon L. So when this P amount of force is applied, then I can calculate the stress value, because stress formula is in front of you. Stress is equal to force upon area. P is given to you as a given parameter, because I am applying this particular force on the plate. Cross sectional area A, it is also given. It may be square section, it may be rectangular section, or it may be circular section. We can calculate. Then E is equal to strain is equal to change in length. We can calculate here. We can measure the length before application of load, for example 5 centimeter before application of load. Okay, and after application of force, you will get it as a 7 centimeter. That means 7 centimeter divided by 5 centimeter, you will get the strain value and the stress value. And by using that stress value and the strain value, I can draw the graph here, and that graph is called as a stress strain curve for the ductile material and the brittle material. So strain values, whatever you will get, number of strain values you will get, because you are varying the load from 10 kilonewton. For 10 kilonewton force, stress and strain will be different. For 20 kilonewton, stress and strain will be different. For 30, stress strain will be different. For 40, stress strain will be different. Up to that, if I have applied 80 kilonewton, for 80 kilonewton also, stress strain curve will be different. So I will take that stress values accordingly. I will take that strain values, and from that values here I will draw this particular graph. Therefore, this graph is called as a stress strain curve. Stress is represented on the vertical axis and the strain is represented on the horizontal axis. Now, if you see the nature of this particular graph and their important points A, B, C, D, and E, what that particular point indicates, that you have to understand. Now, this graph is applicable for the ductile material, and this ductile material we have considered as a mild steel. Okay, now one by one, I will explain the things. What is the importance of each and every point? Now, if you focus, this is point O, that is 0 point, which is called as the origin. Okay, this is point O, or we can consider it as a 0 point. Okay, because initially the load is not applied, that means it becomes 0 kilonewton. If force is 0, then stress is also equal to 0 and strain is also equal to 0. Okay, so this is the origin point which is equal to 0. Now if I will start increasing the force, if I will start increasing the force, at that time, as the force is increases, the stress value and the strain value are also goes on increasing. Suppose if I am starting from 5 kilonewton, then 5, 10, 15, 20, like that. If I am gradually increasing the force, at that time the stress value and the strain value is also increases. But at point A, if you see here, the point A is represented here. This portion O to A, from portion O to A, the stress and strain are directly proportional to each other. Stress and strain are directly proportional to each other, means they are simultaneously increases with same value. Baga, at this particular point A, whatever the amount of stress is there, same amount of strain is there. If I will take one more center point, so here at this particular point, again the stress and strain are directly proportional to each other. Therefore this portion OA is perfectly represented by the straight line. जर तुम्ही हा पोर्शन OA बघितला तर it is perfectly represent the straight line. There is no any curvature part. Therefore I can say that up to the portion A, the stress value and strain value are directly proportional to each other. Means I can say that up to the point A, this stress strain curve obeys the Hooke's law. Because what is our statement of the Hooke's law? Within elastic limit, stress strain are directly proportional to each other. And this Hooke's law will be applicable for the portion O to A, and that portion OA is called as a proportional limit. कारण पॉइंट ए पर्यंत जेवढ्या क्वांटिटी मध्ये स्ट्रेस इंड्यूस होतोय तेवढ्याच क्वांटिटी मध्ये स्ट्रेन पण इंड्यूस होतो. म्हणजे पॉइंट ए च्या अलीकडचा तुम्ही कुठल्या जरी पॉइंटला स्ट्रेसची व्हॅल्यू काढली तर तेवढीच तुमची स्ट्रेनची असणार आहे. Why? Because this is the proportional limit. Means up to the point A, this ductile material or the mild steel material will obey the Hooke's law. So here I have represented at the right side, the portion OA is called as a proportional limit because stress and strain are directly proportional to each other. So this is the explanation of the first portion, that is OA. So please keep in mind, the portion OA is called as a proportional limit and it obeys the Hooke's law, and the stress strain curve is perfectly straight or perfectly inclined. Okay, then what is point A? This point A is called as the elastic limit point. What is meant by the elastic limit point? For that purpose, I have given the explanation of the material property as a elasticity. What is meant by the elastic limit? That means up to the point A, if I am applying the force on the member or the body, and if I will release it, body regain to its original position. And this condition is possible up to the point A only. Once your material will cross the point A, and if I will release the force, but material is not in the elastic limit, so there is no any possibility to regain the body at the original position. जी काय बॉडी ओरिजिनल पोझिशनला येण्याची जी काय लिमिट आहे ती कुठपर्यंत आहे, पॉइंट ए पर्यंत आहे. तुम्ही पॉइंट ए पर्यंत किती जरी फोर्स अप्लाय केला आणि त्या कंडिशनला जरी तुम्ही फोर्स रिलीज केला तर ती बॉडी त्याच्या ओरिजिनल पोझिशनला येणार आहे. पण एकदा का तुम्ही तुमचं हे इलास्टिक लिमिट क्रॉस केलं आणि तुमचा अप्लाय झालेला फोर्स हा पॉइंट ए च्या वरचा जर असेल आणि जरी तुम्ही फोर्स रिमूव्ह केला, then also body does not regain to its original position. Therefore Hooke's law मध्ये एक स्टेटमेंट आहे बघा, within elastic limit. This word is very important in the Hooke's law. इलिस्टिक लिमिटच्या आतमध्येच तुमचा स्ट्रेस आणि स्ट्रेन कर्व हा परफेक्टली स्ट्रेट लाईन आहे किंवा ते एकमेकाला प्रोपोर्शनल आहे. आणि त्याच्या आत जर तुम्ही फोर्स रिलीज केला तरच बॉडी त्याच्या ओरिजिनल पोझिशनला येणार आहे. एकदा का तुम्ही हे पॉइंट ए लिमिट क्रॉस केलं body does not regain to their original position. So this is the basic explanation of portion OA as a proportional limit and point A as a elastic limit. Then I am increasing, suppose I have increased the load 10 kilonewton, 20, 30, for example 40 kilonewton. This is the load at point A. 40 kilonewton load, this is the at point A, that is elastic limit. म्हणजे 40 kilonewton पर्यंत जर तुम्ही फोर्स अप्लाय केला आणि तो 40 kilonewton फोर्स जर तुम्ही रिलीज केला म्हणजे झिरो केला, तर त्या 40 kilonewton पासून तुमचा लोड हा झिरो होणार आहे आणि तुमची बॉडी काय होणार आहे, ओरिजिन पोझिशनला येणार. बट आफ्टर दॅट, इफ after 40, if your load becomes 45 kilonewton after point A, and if I will release the load for 45 here for 45 kilonewton force, body does not regain to its original position. कारण आपल्या बॉडीचं इलेस्टिक लिमिट किती आहे, 40 किलोन्यूटन आहे. त्यामुळे 40 किलोन्यूटनच्या आत तुम्ही किती जरी फोर्स अप्लाय केला आणि तो रिलीज केला तर बॉडी तुमची काय होणार आहे, ओरिजिन पोझिशनला येणार आहे. पण एकदा का त्या बॉडीने 40 किलोन्यूटन फोर्स हा क्रॉस केला आणि जरी तुम्ही ते फोर्स रिलीज केला तरी पण तुमची बॉडी ओरिजिनल पोझिशनला येणार नाही, बिकॉज दॅट बॉडी ऑलरेडी क्रॉसेस देअर इलास्टिक लिमिट. सो दिस इज द मीनिंग ऑफ द पोर्शन OA and the elastic limit. Then after 40 kilonewton, again I am increasing load 45, then it becomes 50, then 60, then you will get the one more point, that is point B. Again, if you see the portion AB, if you see the portion AB, it is also looking like a straight line. It is also looking like a straight line, and here also I can say that the value of stress and strain both are continuously increases. In portion OA also the value of stress and strain is increases and it is perfectly straight line. But in the portion AB, again there is an increase in stress and there is an increase in strain. But the portion AB is not a perfectly straight line. जरी ते तुम्हाला इथं straight line दिसत असेल, but in actual case, in actual testing, it is not perfectly straight line. It is somewhat curvature part. जरी तुम्हाला ते स्ट्रेट लाईन दिसत असेल तर हे स्ट्रेट लाईन नाहीये. इन ऍक्च्युअल टेस्टिंग, इफ यू सी देअर ग्राफ, it is having some curvature portion. That means stress values and strain values are not directly proportional to each other in portion AB. जसं OA मध्ये दोन्ही डायरेक्शनल प्रोपोर्शनल आहेत आणि पॉइंट A पर्यंत स्ट्रेसची व्हॅल्यू आणि स्ट्रेनची व्हॅल्यू सेमच आहे. बट इन पोर्शन AB it is looking like straight line, but they are not directly proportional to each other. And why this particular point you will get, because I'm increasing the load from 40 kilonewton to 45, 45 to 50, 50 to 60, and let's just assume that the point B is visible for 60 kilonewton, and this point B is called as a upper yield point. The point B is called as a upper yield point, where the stress and strain are continuously increases, but they are not proportional to each other. What is the meaning of portion AB, or what is the meaning of point B? In the portion AB, the value of stress and value of strain both are increases, but the portion AB is not perfectly straight line and they are not proportional to each other. Therefore, the point B is called as a upper yield point. And ह्या point B ला जर हा तुम्ही 60 किलोन्यूटन फोर्स जर रिलीज केला तर ह्या पॉइंट B पासून तुमची बॉडी ओरिजिनल पोझिशनला जाणार नाही, because already your body has crossed elastic limit, that is 40 kilonewton. Therefore, the point B is called as a upper yield point. आणि ह्या पॉइंट B ला जो काय स्ट्रेस इंड्यूस होतो त्या स्ट्रेसला पण आपण म्हणू शकतो की yield stress or upper yield stress. Actual yielding, actual deformation, it is started after point A. Point A नंतर तुमच्या बॉडीचं actual deformation स्टार्ट झालेलं आहे, पण हे आपल्या डोळ्याला दिसत नाही. पॉइंट पोर्शन AB मध्ये जे काही डिफॉर्मेशन झालेलं असेल किंवा पॉइंट O पासून पॉइंट B पर्यंत जे काही डिफॉर्मेशन झालेलं असेल, that deformation will not be visible to our naked eyes. आपल्या डोळ्यांनी ते डिफॉर्मेशन आपल्याला दिसणार नाही. The actual deformation of the body, it started or it is visible to us after the point B or from point C. Point B पर्यंत deformation झालेला असेल 101%, there is a deformation, but it is not visible to us. Actual deformation is visible to us after point B or from point C. So please understand, in the portion AB, stress and strain are increases, but they are not proportional to each other. Okay, and the point B is called as a upper yield point. Please mute yourself, someone mic is on. Someone mic is on. Tejas Kasbe. Tejas Kasbe, please make your mic off. तेजल कसबे.
काय मंत्र म्हणायला लागलीस तर काय की पटकन.
तेजल कसबे, please make your mic off.
खाट झाडून घे कसा घ्यायचा त्या बाळाचा.
तेजल कसबे.
तुम्ही बसून पेंगायला म्हणे यश उठ बाळाचं आता रामा डोक्यात घाल उडती यश चौकी पेंगायला बसून म्हणे त्या डोळ्यात उडू देऊ नको. ह्या पोराच्या सगळ्या अंगावर उडव.
Okay. Okay, so we are discussing about point B. So up to the point B, there is an increase in stress value and strain value, but they are not proportional to each other. Therefore, point B is called as a upper yield point, and whatever the stress induced at point B, that stress is also called as a yield stress. Okay, then after point B, now already we have discussed the 60 kilonewton force is already applied up to the point B. Now again I am increasing the load. Again I am increasing the load from 60 kilonewton 70. Suppose 80 kilonewton is the force which is at point C. Now if you see the portion BC, there is a drop in stress. If you see the portion BC, there is a drop in stress but increase in strain. From portion B to C, there is a drop in stress but increase in strain. Why strain is increases? Because whenever we are applying the forces or whenever we are increasing the force from 60 to 65, 65 to 70, 70 to 75 and up to the 80 kilonewton, at that time your elongation is not stopped. Elongation is continuously increases because strain is equal to delta L upon L, and strain and delta L are directly proportional to each other. If delta L is increases, then the strain value is also increases. Therefore, in the portion B to C, the value of stress is goes on decreasing, but the value of strain is continuously increases because the deformation of body is continuously going on. And this particular point C is called as a lower yield stress or lower yield point. The point B is called as a upper yield point and point C is called as a lower yield point. And whatever the stress induced at point C, that stress is called as a lower yield stress. See the difference between portion AB and BC. In AB, stress is also increases, strain is also increases, but they are not proportional to each other. In the portion BC, value of stress is decreases, but value of strain is continuously increases. Why? Because due to the increase in force value or load value, deformation is also increases. The deformation increase होत असेल तर तुमची strain value पण काय होणार आहे त्या ठिकाणी continuously increases होणार आहे. Therefore, in the portion BC, there is a drop in stress, but there is a continuously increase in strain value. And point C is called as a lower yield point. आणि ह्या point C ला जरी तुम्हाला 80 kilonewton चा फोर्स हा झिरो केला देन ऑल्सो बॉडी डज नॉट रिगेन टू इट्स ओरिजिनल पोझिशन, कारण ऑलरेडी बॉडीने तिचं इलेस्टिक लिमिट पॉइंट काय केलेला आहे, क्रॉस केलेला आहे. Getting? So this is the point C, which is called as a lower yield point. And now from this particular point C, the actual deformation is visible to us. Up to point B, the deformation is taking place in the body, but it is not visible to our naked eyes. But once your body will cross the point B, and whatever the deformation is taking place at point C, some deformation, some elongation is taking place, that the actual elongation of the body is visible to us, and it is visible from point C. Okay, so this is the 80 kilonewton force at point C. Again, from 80 kilonewton, again I'm increasing 90 kilonewton. It becomes 90, then 100 kilonewton. Now suppose 100 kilonewton, this is the point at point D. Now what happened? Again, load is increases from 80, then 80 to 85, 85 to 90, 95 to 90 to 95, 95 to 100. And if you see the portion CD, if you see the portion CD, again there is a increase in stress value, again there is a increase in strain value. But if you see the portion CD, it is looking like a one curvature part. It is not a perfectly straight line. The portion CD, in the portion CD, there is an increase in stress value as well as there is an increase in strain value, but they are not proportional to each other. And at point D, this point D is called as a ultimate stress point, and at this particular point D, the nick formation will be taking place. So what is meant by nick formation? You can see at the right side one figure is there. So in the second figure, if you see, in the second figure, the nick formation is taking place. जे काय डिफॉर्मेशन आपल्याला ऍक्च्युअल डोळ्याला दिसणार आहे ते पॉइंट सी पासून ऑलरेडी स्टार्ट झालेला आहे, आणि व्हॉट एव्हर द निक फॉर्मेशन इज टेकिंग प्लेस, दॅट निक फॉर्मेशन इज विजिबल ऍट पॉइंट डी, अँड इट इज रिप्रेझेंटेड बाय दिस पर्टिक्युलर फिगर. म्हणजे व्हॉट इज द फर्स्ट फिगर इज देअर बिफोर नेकिंग. I have written before necking. This figure is visible up to the point C. म्हणजे ह्याच्यामध्ये पण डिफॉर्मेशन झालेलं आहे, but that deformation is not visible to us. But actual deformation, actual nick formation is totally visible, or it is properly visible at point D. And at point D, what exactly happened? Here, the nick formation is taking place means the cross-sectional area is goes on decreasing and the length is goes on increasing. So here I will draw one figure. This is the original load where the deformation is not visible, but this is the second condition. If you see, what is the difference between first figure and second figure? In the first figure, deformation is taking place, but it is not visible. But in the second figure, the actual nick formation is taking place. And if you focus on this particular nick area, here the cross-sectional area is goes on decreasing and the length is goes on increasing. At the point D or in the portion CD, the value of stress is also increases, value of strain is also increases, but they are not proportional to each other. And point D is called as a upper yield point, and actual nick formation, actual deformation is totally visible at point D, where the cross-sectional area is goes on decreasing and the length is goes on increasing. And whatever the stress developed at point D, that stress is called as a ultimate stress or ultimate stress point. बघा, निक फॉर्मेशन झालं म्हणजे आपली बॉडी त्या ठिकाणी काय तर ब्रेकिंगचे चान्सेस जास्त आहेत. म्हणजे आपण फ्रॉम पॉइंट ओ वी हॅव इन्क्रीज द लोड, देन 40 kilonewton, then 60 kilonewton, then 80 kilonewton, then what is the load value at point D? 100 kilonewton. Means at 100 kilonewton your actual deformation is visible. म्हणजे त्या 100 kilonewton नंतर तुम्ही थोडा जरी फोर्स इन्क्रीज झाला तर तुमची बॉडी त्या ठिकाणी काय होणार आहे, ब्रेक होणार आहे. मग ब्रेकिंगच्या अगोदरची जी काय कंडिशन आहे ती कंडिशन म्हणजेच तुमची पॉइंट डी असणार आहे. त्याच पॉइंट डी ला आपण काय म्हणतोय, ऍक्च्युअल निक फॉर्मेशन म्हणतोय किंवा त्याला अल्टिमेट स्ट्रेस पॉइंट म्हणतोय. म्हणजे ब्रेकिंगच्या अगोदरची जी काय कंडिशन आहे तो म्हणजे तुमचा कुठला पॉइंट असणार आहे तर डी पॉइंट असणार आहे. आतापर्यंत आपला लोड किती झालेला आहे, 100 kilonewton. नाउ अगेन आय एम इन्क्रीजिंग द लोड फ्रॉम 100 to 105 and 110. This is the force value where the body will get break into the two different portion. ह्या निक फॉर्मेशनला काय होणार आहे 100 किलोन्यूटन नंतर अगेन आपण 100चा 105 करणार 105चा 110 करणार परत त्या ठिकाणी क्रॉस सेक्शनल एरिया इट इज कंटिन्युअसली गोज ऑन डिक्रीजिंग लेंथ इज कंटिन्युअसली इन्क्रीजिंग and at one point the body will get break into the two different portions and that point E is called as a breaking point means 110 kilonewton. This is the breaking point means this rod is having the limit up to 110 kilonewton. What is the maximum limit of that particular rod? 110 kilonewton means that member or body can sustain the load up to 110 kilonewton. This is the maximum limit. And if you see in the portion D, the stress is also increases, deformation is continuously increases, and at one point the deformation is increases in such a way that the body will get break into the two different portions. आणि बॉडी काय एकदा ब्रेक झाली आणि त्याच्यावर तुम्ही किती जरी फोर्स अप्लाय केला तर तो स्ट्रेसची व्हॅल्यू पण 0 होणार आहे, स्ट्रेनची व्हॅल्यू पण 0 होणार आहे आणि त्याच्यावर अप्लाय केलेला फोर्स पण एका कंडिशनला काय होणार आहे 0 होणार आहे. मीन्स I will get one breaking point also and I will get another different values also. What is the elastic limit point, what is the upper yield point, what is the lower yield point, and what is the D point. That means at which point the actual deformation or the nick formation will be taking place. So this is the breaking point or it is also called as a rupture point. Rupture means जिथं body तुमची break होते तो point means breaking point or the rupture point. So this is the explanation of the stress strain curve for the ductile material and this graph you will get from the tensile testing by using the UTM machine. Please understand all the importance of all the points. A, elastic limit. B, upper yield point. C, lower yield point. And from point C, actual deformation is visible. And ते कधी दिसणार आहे तर point D ला दिसणार आहे. Means it is ultimate stress point where the nick formation is taking place. That means whatever the condition before breaking म्हणजे ब्रेक व्हायच्या अगोदरची जी काय कंडिशन आहे ती कंडिशन तुम्हाला कुठे दिसणार आहे तर पॉइंट डी ला दिसणार आहे. आणि पॉइंट ई ला एक अशी कंडिशन येणार आहे की ज्या ठिकाणी तुमचा कंपोनंट दोन पोर्शन मध्ये ब्रेक झालेला दिसेल. So this is about the stress strain curve for the ductile and the brittle material. And whatever the conditions we have seen up till now, now you can see here. Figure number 1. Figure number 1, no load means no deformation. Figure number 2, F amount of force is applied. That means load is started from 10 kilonewton, 20. Suppose this I have considered. We have considered elastic limit point 40 kilonewton, 40 kilonewton. This is the condition number 2. Deformation दिसतंय का आपल्याला elastic limit ला दिसत नाही. परत 40 नंतर आपण 60 किलोन्यूटन घेतला होता. तो म्हणजे कुठला होता तुमचा अपर यील्ड पॉइंट 60 किलोन्यूटन. ओके, डिफॉर्मेशन दिसतंय का नाही. आफ्टर 60 kilonewton the deformation is actually visible. आणि हा जो काय फिगर नंबर 4 आहे this figure number means your 100 kilonewton we have considered, that is ultimate stress point 100 kilonewton. Why it is 100 kilonewton? Because you can see here the nick formation is taking place means actual deformation is visible. In figure number 2 and in figure number 3 there is also some deformation. बघा कारण 40 किलोन्यूटनचा फोर्स अप्लाय केला म्हणजे डिफॉर्मेशन झालेला असणार आहे. 60 किलोन्यूटन फोर्स we have applied means deformation is taking place but it is actually not visible to us. So actual deformation is visible from point C and then after point C at point D the actual nick formation is taking place where cross section area decreases, length is increases. And after the figure number 4, the figure number 5 represents the breaking point. बघा 100 नंतर तुम्ही 110 किलोन्यूटनचा फोर्स अप्लाय केला and at that point actual breaking is taking place. Means here stress value, strain value and load becomes equal to 0. Means 110, this is the maximum limit of this particular load. We can apply the load up to 110. 100 it will sustain, 90 it also sustain, 109 it is also sustained, but 115 kilonewton load it will not sustain by this particular rod. Why? कारण त्याचा ब्रेकिंग पॉइंटच 110 ला आहे तर 115 तो कसा सस्टेन करेल. So this is and breaking point of each and every material will be different. Here I am just giving an example how the body will sustain up to their maximum limit. So this is the stress strain curve for the ductile material. Getting? Yes, if anybody is having any question, you can ask me. Yes, all of you have got the stress strain curve for the ductile material, importance of each and every point, कुठल्या पॉइंटला काय होते, कुठल्या पॉइंटला कुठला स्ट्रेस डेव्हलप होतोय, at from which point actual deformation is taking place. Yes, all of you got, anybody is having any question?
Yes.
Okay, try to give the replies in the chat box immediately, so I can clear the thing, so everyone has got, so we can go for the further part. Yes, what about others? Okay, so now I got the replies like yes, okay, good. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, otherwise we'll take the next curve, that is stress strain curve for the brittle material. So things are very simple. This stress strain curve is very important. So many times the problems are also there, some MCQ based questions are also there, and maximum times in your technical interviews, the importance of each and every point, importance of each and every portion, it will be asked. So this curve should be at your tip of tongue. Okay, so this is the stress strain curve for the ductile material, and you have already assumed that ductile material will be our mild steel. Now stress strain curve for the brittle material, and whatever the brittle material we have considered, that will be the glass. And if you see the stress strain curve, only 2 points are there. If you see the stress strain curve, only 2 points are there. This is the point I will consider point A, and last one is the point B. In the previous stress strain diagram, point A is there, B is there, C, D, E, and meaning of each and every point will be different, because that material will be the ductile material, and due to that only you will get the number of portions, proportional limit, then elastic limit, then upper yield point, lower yield point, then ultimate stress point, and then breaking. But if you see here, stress strain curve for the brittle material as a glass, only 2 points you will get. Again, same graph we have to consider, that is, this is the x-axis on which strain value will be considered, this is the y-axis on which the stress value will be considered, and now whatever the material we have used here, that material will be the glass. Now if I am applying some amount of force on the glass material, okay, so up to point A, again there is a stress is directly proportional to strain. If you see here, stress is directly proportional to the strain. That means the glass material or the brittle material also obeys Hooke's law up to the point A. That is, stress strain is directly proportional to the each of the in the portion OA. It is common for all the materials, because each and every material is having their proportional limit, or each and every material will obey the Hooke's law up to certain point. But in case of a glass material, suppose this is the 30 kilonewton force up to the point A, and from 30 kilonewton, if I will increase the 40 kilonewton force in the portion A to B, at that time immediately the glass will get break. ग्लासवर आपण फोर्स अप्लाय केलाय आणि त्याच्यावर फोर्स रिमूव्ह केला, आपण असं कधीच बघितलं नाही की ग्लास विल रिगेट टू देअर ओरिजिनल पोझिशन. You have not seen such conditions anywhere. If we are applying the force on the glass, the deformation of glass is taking place, and if I will release the force on the glass material and that glass regain to its original position, such conditions are not visible in brittle material and the glass material. Some deformation is taking place, no problem. Here up to the 30 kilonewton, for 30 kilonewton force, some deformation is taking place in glass material, but it is not visible to us. In case of a ductile material, actual deformation is starting from point C. In case of a ductile material, actual deformation is visible to us from point C. Then in case of a brittle material, up to the point A, how the deformation is visible? No. For 30 kilonewton, deformation is taking place, no problem, but it is not visible. But from 30 kilonewton, if I am increasing the load up to the 40 kilonewton, the upper yield point is not there, lower yield point is not there, ultimate stress point is not there. डायरेक्टली फ्रॅक्चर इज टेकिंग प्लेस इन केस ऑफ ए ग्लास मटेरियल. बघा, आपण जर ग्लास वरून खाली जमिनीवर फेकली तर त्याचं पहिल्यांदा फेकल्यानंतर आपल्याला थोडं डिफॉर्मेशन दिसत नाही, त्याच्यानंतर थोडं डिफॉर्मेशन दिसत नाही, त्याच्यानंतर थोडं डिफॉर्मेशन दिसत. डायरेक्टली ग्लास विल गेट ब्रेक इनटू द नंबर ऑफ पोर्शन. गेटिंग? इफ आय विल थ्रो द ग्लास ऑन द ग्राउंड, आपण जर ग्लास वरून फेकली तर काय होणार आहे, डायरेक्टली ग्लासचे तुम्हाला दोन तुकडे झालेले दिसणार. So actual deformation, थोडं डिफॉर्मेशन आता, थोडं डिफॉर्मेशन नंतर, after some deformation, even nick formation is also not visible in the brittle material or in glass material. जसं निक फॉर्मेशन आपल्याला डक्टाइल मध्ये दिसत होतं, म्हणजे ब्रेकिंगच्या अगोदरची कंडिशन आपल्याला डक्टाइल मटेरियल मध्ये दिसत होती. बट हियर इन केस ऑफ ए ब्रिटल मटेरियल or in case of a glass, the upper yield point is also not visible, lower yield point is also not visible, even nick formation is also not visible. After the proportional limit, directly fracture is taking place or directly breaking is taking place. And just for your more understanding, I have considered the glass आपण कुठून जरी फेकली तर डायरेक्टली आपल्याला त्याचे दोन तुकडे झालेले दिसणार. So that's why in case of a brittle material, after the proportional limit, directly fracture will be taking place. इथं पण nick formation झालेलं असणार आहे. In case of a brittle material also, nick formation is also taking place. But here, that nick formation also is not visible to us. जसं मागच्या ह्याच्यामध्ये आपल्याला at least nick formation दिसत होतं, ब्रेकिंगच्या अगोदरची कंडिशन दिसत होती, पण इथं ती कंडिशन दिसत नाही. That's why point B is also called as a ultimate stress point as well as breaking point. जे एकाच पॉइंटला निक फॉर्मेशन पण झालेलं असणार आहे आणि त्याच पॉइंटला ब्रेकिंग पण झालेलं असणार. Therefore, point B is called as a fracture point or breaking point. Also, it is called as a ultimate stress point where the nick formation is taking place. Otherwise, upper yield point is not there and lower yield point is also not there. It is there, but here they have not considered. Upper yield point पण झालेला असणार आहे, lower yielding पण झालेला असणार आहे, nick formation पण झालेला असणार आहे, but it is not actually visible. But instead of considering that upper yield and lower yield point, the breaking point will be considered as a ultimate stress point. So this is the stress strain curve for the brittle material. And easily, if you compare both the curves with each other, how their difference is there, that we have to understand. Getting? Point A is the proportional limit. After point A, if load is increases, suddenly nick formation and immediately breaking will be taking place. Therefore, ultimate stress point and the breaking stress point or the breaking point will be considered at one point only for brittle material or for the glass material. So this is the stress strain curve for the brittle material. Okay. Now, one more thing just I want to tell. In case of a ductile material, the point B will be considered as a maximum stress point. Please keep in mind. In case of a ductile material, बघा, हा point B जर मी लेफ्ट साइडला y axis वर जर शिफ्ट केला तर तो हा येतोय आणि पॉइंट D हा पण मी इकडे शिफ्ट केला तर हा इथे येतो. But as the point D is far ahead from the point B, then also point D will not be considered as a maximum stress point. जरी point B हा point D च्या खाली असेल तरी पण point B हाच maximum stress point consider करतो. Why? Because at point D the stress value is maximum, no problem. But at point D the nick formation is taking place. पॉइंट डी ला पण काहीतरी डिफॉर्मेशन झालेला आहे, पॉइंट बी ला पण काहीतरी डिफॉर्मेशन झालेला आहे. बट ऍट पॉइंट बी व्हॉटएव्हर द डिफॉर्मेशन इज टेकिंग प्लेस, दॅट डिफॉर्मेशन इज नॉट विजिबल. दॅट मीन्स बॉडी इज समवॉट स्ट्रॉंग ऍट पॉइंट बी ऍज कम्पेअर टू द पॉइंट डी. बॉडीची स्ट्रेंथ ही पॉइंट बी ला जास्त असणार आहे ऍज कम्पेअर टू पॉइंट डी. व्हाय? बिकॉज ऍट पॉइंट बी डिफॉर्मेशन इज नॉट विजिबल, निक फॉर्मेशन इज नॉट विजिबल. But at point D, जरी तो पॉइंट डी हा पॉइंट बी च्या वरच्या बाजूला दिसत असेल, पण ऍट पॉइंट डी ऍक्च्युअल निक फॉर्मेशन म्हणजे ऑलरेडी बॉडीचं तिथे डिफॉर्मेशन झालेलं आहे, बॉडीची ब्रेकिंग कंडिशन तिथे तुम्हाला दिसायला लागलेली आहे. त्यामुळं हा पॉइंट डी जरी पॉइंट बी च्या वरच्या बाजूला दिसत असेल तरी पण आपण पॉइंट डी हा मॅक्सिमम स्ट्रेस पॉइंट कन्सिडर करत नाही. We are considering point B means upper yield point will be considered as a maximum stress point in ductile material because the nick formation deformation is not visible at point B but it is visible at point D and your material is somewhat strong at point B as compared to the point D. म्हणजे तुमचं मटेरियल हे पॉइंट B ला जास्त स्ट्रॉंग असणार आहे D पेक्षा. कारण डी ला ऑलरेडी मटेरियलचं ब्रेकिंग झालेलं आहे, तिथला क्रॉस सेक्शनल एरिया कमी झालेला आहे, लेंथ इन्क्रीज झालेला आहे आणि ती कंडिशन बिफोर ब्रेकिंगची असल्यामुळे त्या पॉइंटला आपण मॅक्सिमम स्ट्रेस पॉइंट कन्सिडर करत नाही. पॉइंट बी विल बी कन्सिडर्ड ऍज ए maximum stress point. Please keep in mind, based on this MCQ question will be there. In case of a ductile material, maximum stress point will be proportional limit, upper yield point, lower yield point, or the ultimate stress point. Then we have to select upper yield point. Getting? But in case of a brittle material, the maximum stress point will be considered as a ultimate stress point, breaking stress point, and the fracture point. एकाच पॉइंटला पॉइंट बी लाच आपण अल्टिमेट स्ट्रेस पॉइंट पण म्हणतोय, ब्रेकिंग पॉइंट पण म्हणतोय आणि त्याच ठिकाणी तुमचं मटेरियल पण काय झालेलं आहे ब्रेक झालेलं आहे. त्यामुळं इन केस ऑफ ए ब्रिटल मटेरियल अल्टिमेट स्ट्रेस पॉइंट और ब्रेकिंग पॉइंट विल बी कन्सिडर्ड ऍज ए मॅक्सिमम स्ट्रेस पॉइंट. पॉइंट ए ला तर आपण मॅक्सिमम म्हणू शकत नाही कारण at point A stress and strain value are directly proportional to each other. They are obeys the Hooke's law. But after point A immediately fracture is taking place. म्हणजेच तोच पॉइंट म्हणजे काय त्याचा मॅक्सिमम स्ट्रेस पॉइंट. Therefore, in case of a ductile material, once again I am repeating, in case of a ductile material, yield stress point, मग त्याच्यामध्ये अजून upper yield stress point will be considered as a maximum stress point, and in case of a brittle material, that is glass, that is brittle material, the breaking point or breaking म्हणण्याच्या ऐवजी आपण त्याला काय म्हणूया ultimate म्हणूया. Ultimate stress point will be considered as a maximum stress point. So this is the difference between the stress strain curve for the ductile material and the stress strain curve for the brittle material. And whatever the definitions just now I have told for which material what is the maximum stress point, these definitions are useful for solving the numericals. In some of the examples, such types of the words they are mentioning, the material name they are mentioning, and accordingly we have to check that whether this is the maximum stress point or not. So please simply you can keep for ductile material, upper yield point will be the maximum stress point or yield point will be the maximum stress point, and in case of a brittle material, ultimate stress point will be the maximum stress point. Getting? So this is about the stress strain curve for the ductile and the brittle material. Now, have you understood the brittle material concept? What is the difference between ductile and brittle? That is mild steel and the glass material. Yes, understood the things and their differences. You can take the note. In case of a ductile material, upper yield point or the yield point will be the maximum stress point, and in case of a brittle material, ultimate stress ज्यालाच आपण ब्रेकिंग पॉइंट म्हणतोय. डक्टाइल मटेरियल मध्ये अल्टिमेट वेगळा आहे आणि ब्रेकिंग वेगळा आहे. बट in case of a brittle material, ultimate breaking points are the same, and this is the maximum stress point in the glass material or the brittle material. Getting everyone? Yes, everyone has got. Okay. So whenever the things I'm explaining, you have to draw this particular figure in your notebook, represent all the important points in the notebook, and whatever the things I'm explaining, I will send the notes, no problem. But from your side, whatever the things are important, you can also write down in your notebook, so it can be helpful during your study. So whatever the formulas, whatever the important diagrams, whatever the important definitions I am telling, immediately you have to take the note of it, and immediately you can write in your notebook. Okay, so this is about the stress strain curve for the ductile material. Now the factor of safety. So what are the things we have discussed just now? Maximum stress point for the ductile material and maximum stress point for the brittle material. By using that values, one constant parameter or one constant definition we have to define, and that definition is called as a factor of safety. So this factor of safety is also given in some of the statement. Take factor of safety is equal to 2. Take factor of safety is equal to 1.5. Take factor of safety is equal to 3. Then what is meant by the factor of safety? So we are having the simple definition. It is defined as the ratio of maximum stress upon working stress. What is the difference between maximum stress and working stress? That we have to identify first. What is the difference between maximum stress and working stress? So maximum stress means it is the maximum limit of the material. Suppose this is one body, and this body will sustain the maximum stress up to 250 Newton per mm square. This is the maximum limit of the material. म्हणजे ह्या बॉडीवर आपण 250 न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर पर्यंतच स्ट्रेस ती बॉडी काय करते, सस्टेन करू शकते. मीन्स इट इज द लिमिट ऑफ दिस पर्टिक्युलर मटेरियल or limit of this particular body. So this is called as a maximum. Then what is meant by the working? Working means, suppose if this body is subjected to the 30 kilonewton force, okay, if this body is subjected to the 30 kilonewton force, and for this 30 kilonewton, if 150 Newton per mm square is developed, then this 150 means your working stress. Understand the difference between the maximum stress and working stress. Maximum stress means it represents the maximum limit of the material. Up to that values only body can sustain the stress. Means 250 Newton per mm square. This is the maximum limit of the material. म्हणजे त्या बॉडीवर किंवा ती बॉडी 250 न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर एवढ्या पर्यंतच स्ट्रेस काय करू शकते, सस्टेन करू शकते. म्हणजे 250 च्या आतला किती का असना, 200, 245, 240, 230, 220, 100, 50, 10, any value it can sustain up to 250. This is the maximum limit. Then what is the working stress? Working stress means if this body is subjected to the 30 kilonewton force, 40 kilonewton force, 50 kilonewton force. Suppose here I have given the example for 30 kilonewton force, if 150 Newton per mm square stress is developed, this 150 represents the working stress. म्हणजे त्या बॉडीवर अप्लाय झालेल्या फोर्सला मुळे जो काय स्ट्रेस इंड्यूस झालेला असतो तो काय असतो तुमचा 150. अँड दिस वर्किंग स्ट्रेस इज ऑलवेज लेस दॅन मॅक्सिमम स्ट्रेस. दिस वर्किंग स्ट्रेस इज ऑलवेज लेस दॅन मॅक्सिमम स्ट्रेस. म्हणजे आपल्याला माहित झालेलं की 250 न्यूटन पर्यंतच ती बॉडी काय करते, स्ट्रेस सस्टेन करू शकते. तर हा कंपोनेंट अशा ऍप्लिकेशन मध्ये यूज करायचा की ज्या ठिकाणी त्या बॉडीमध्ये इंड्यूस होणारा स्ट्रेस हा 250 च्याच आत असला पाहिजे. Maximum limit is 250 and we are using this particular component in one application where 400 Newton per mm square stress is developed. Whether body is sustaining? No, because limit is 250 and the body is developing the or bodies or in that particular application the body is developing the stress up to the 400 Newton per mm square. For 250 only breaking is taking place, so body will not sustain the 400. Therefore, the working stress is always less than the maximum stress. So simply once again I will repeat the definition. Maximum stress means it is the maximum limit of the material which is already defined. Maximum stress point हा already आपण define केलेला असतो. जे आपण टेन्साइल टेस्टिंग करतो, जे आपण टॉर्शन टेस्टिंग करतो, जे आपण बेंडिंग टेस्टिंग करतो, ते टेस्टिंग करताना जी काय व्हॅल्यू आपण टेस्टिंगच्या वेळेस काढलेली असते की this body will sustain the this much amount of load, this body will sustain the this much amount of stress, that value represents the maximum stress point. And working stress means त्या बॉडीवर जो काय फोर्स अप्लाय केलेला आहे त्या फोर्स मुळे आलेला स्ट्रेस म्हणजेच वर्किंग स्ट्रेस. So this is the basic definition of factor of safety, and same definition we have defined for the ductile material. So ductile material, what is the factor of safety? Common definition: factor of safety is equal to maximum stress upon working stress. So for ductile material, what is the maximum stress point? yield stress point will be the maximum stress point. Therefore, the definition for the factor of safety for ductile material is maximum stress upon working stress. आणि ductile साठी आपला maximum stress point कुठला असणार आहे तर upper yield point, त्यालाच आपण काय म्हणतो yield stress point. Therefore, yield stress upon working stress. Similarly, factor of safety for the brittle material, again common definition, maximum stress upon working stress. And for the brittle material, what is the maximum stress point? Ultimate stress point or breaking point. But instead of using the word breaking stress, we have used the word as a ultimate stress and divided by working stress as it is. And in both the conditions, the working stress is always less than maximum stress, or it is always less than yield stress, or here it is less than ultimate stress. जर वर्किंग स्ट्रेस जर तुमचा वाढलेला असेल तर बॉडी त्या मॅक्सिमम स्ट्रेस पर्यंत जाणार नाही, ती अगोदरच कुठं तर ब्रेक होईल. Therefore, before we have to use any components in any application, first of all we have to check their feasibility. We have to check their feasibility. If it is feasible to sustain that much amount of stress, then and then only we have to use in the particular application. जर आपल्या झालेला स्ट्रेस हा त्याच्या लिमिटच्या बाहेर असेल, then why it is required to put that component in the actual application? So we have to check the feasibility, we have to check their maximum limits, and then we have to use for the particular application. Getting? So this is the definition of factor of safety. So please keep in mind, factor of safety is equal to maximum stress upon working stress. And same definition for the ductile material, factor of safety is equal to either upper yield point or yield stress point divided by working stress. And for the brittle material, maximum stress means ultimate stress point or breaking point divided by working stress. Getting? So this is the definition of factor of safety, and we have to use these particular definitions, these formulas in further numerical solutions. So please take this particular definition in your notebook. Factor of safety is equal to maximum stress upon working stress. In bracket maximum stress you can write maximum limit of the material, and working stress means त्या बॉडीवर अप्लाय केलेल्या फोर्स मुळे जो काय स्ट्रेस येतो तो म्हणजे तुमचा ऍक्च्युअल वर्किंग स्ट्रेस. मग बॉडीवर 20 किलोन्यूटन असेल तर 20 किलोन्यूटन मुळे आलेला स्ट्रेस म्हणजेच वर्किंग स्ट्रेस, and it is always less than the maximum stress. So take this particular three formulas. Maximum stress upon working stress is equal to factor of safety. Yield stress upon working stress is equal to factor of safety for the ductile material, and ultimate stress upon working stress, this is the factor of safety for the brittle material. And these values are already given in the statement of the problem at the end, along with capital E, along with mu, and along with that is factor of safety is equal to 1, 2, 2.5, 3, like that. Yes, have you got the concept of the factor of safety and what is the difference between the maximum stress and working stress? Yes, have you got the difference between maximum stress and working stress? Very simple difference is there. Maximum means limit of the material, and working means stress developed for the particular load only. Particular load जो काय स्ट्रेस येतो तो वर्किंग स्ट्रेस असतो, and it is less than the maximum stress. Okay, great. So this is the basic definition, and I hope you have taken these three formulas in your notebook, because we have to use these three formulas for our further solutions or numerical solutions. Okay. So this is the relation between all the elastic constant. In the yesterday's lecture, we have discussed about the definition of Young's modulus E, linear stress upon linear strain, the definition of modulus of rigidity, or G or C, that is shear stress upon shear strain, and K, bulk modulus, volumetric stress upon volumetric strain. So these are the three elastic constant, and one more constant is there which is called as a mu. So the relation between all the elastic constant, that is E, G, K, and mu. So these are the three formulas. So the relation between E and K, if you look at here, first relation is relation between modulus of elasticity and bulk modulus K. What is that? E is equal to 3K in bracket 1 minus 2 mu. So this is the relation between E and K only, that is Young's modulus and bulk modulus K. Based on this, we have to solve the numerical. So please take this particular three formulas also in your notebook. The first relation is relation between E and K. Second relation between Young's modulus E and the modulus of rigidity G. That G is also represented by C. So what is that relation? E is equal to 2G in bracket 1 plus mu. This is the relation between mu is the constant, so don't consider the effect of mu. Mu is present in both the conditions, but mostly the relation between Young's modulus E and modulus of rigidity G. In the first equation, only two elastic constants are there, that is E and K. In the second relation, again two elastic constants are there, E and G. But if you look at to the third one is the relation between all the three elastic constants. What is that relation? E is equal to 9 kg divided by G plus 3K or 3K plus G. So here E is also present, K is also present, G is also present. That means third relation represents the relation between all the three elastic constant. E is also present, G is also present, and the K is also present. So please take these relations in your notebook. Take this particular three formulas, write down the first heading, relation between Young's modulus E and bulk modulus K. Write down the first relation. E is equal to 3K in bracket 1 minus 2 mu. Based on this, 101% in your online examination question will be there. Simple question will be asked. What is the relation between Young's modulus E and bulk modulus K? And four options will be given. E is equal to 3K in bracket 1 minus 2 mu. E is equal to K in bracket 1 plus 2 mu. E is equal to 4K in brackets. Like that, some confusion options will be given. But if this relation at your tip of tongue, immediately you can give the answer. So E is equal to 3K in bracket 1 minus 2 mu. Second relation, write down heading, relation between modulus of elasticity, which is also called as a Young's modulus, and modulus of rigidity. It is also called as a shear modulus, and that will be indicated by G or C. What is that relation? E is equal to 2G in bracket 1 plus mu. This is the second relation. And third one, relation between all the three elastic constants. E is equal to 9 kg divided by G plus 3K or 3K plus G. You can write in any format. But these three relations should be at your tip of tongue. Because based on this, 101% MCQ question will be there in your online examination. Four options will be given in the different manner: 2G, 3G, 5G, 1 minus 2 mu, only 1. Like that, confusion options will be given. But if you remind these things immediately, in the fraction of second, you can choose the correct option and you can attempt this particular problem. So take this particular all the relations, write down the heading, relation between E, G, C, K, and mu. Okay, I hope you have taken this all the three formulas in your notebook. These formulas are also very important in this particular chapter number 4, chapter 1, for solving the numericals. That time also once again I will give the list of the formulas, but now this as a part of theoretical part you have to write down in your notebook. Okay, then here already we have discussed the definition of Poisson's ratio, lateral strain upon longitudinal strain, and that longitudinal strain is also called as a linear strain. This Poisson's ratio definition is also very important. It is also asked in the examination for the MCQ question. So take this particular definition also. Poisson's ratio is equal to lateral upon linear, and that linear word is also called as a longitudinal. And now, up till now, whatever the part we have covered, that is all the theoretical parts and the basic concepts of the chapter number 1. We have started from the definition of stress, then their subtypes: tensile stress, compressive stress, tensile strain, compressive strain, then linear strain, then lateral strain. Then we have discussed about the definitions of all the elastic constants, their important formulas, then deformation due to the external load, deformation due to the self-weight. Then we have discussed about the stress strain curve for the ductile material, brittle material, then their important definitions, importance of each and every point, then definition of factor of safety, and then same factor of safety definition for the ductile material, brittle material. And just now we have discussed about the relation between all the elastic constants. So up till now, whatever we have discussed, that all are the basic concepts, and all are the basic concepts are important for your online examination. So whatever the things I have explained, whatever the important definitions I have explained, whatever the important formulas I have given, that will be important as far as your online examination point of concern. So these are the all the theoretical points, and now we will start with the numericals based on the chapter number 1. So how many variety of numericals we have to solve in this particular chapter? So total 6 variety are there on which we have to solve the numerical. So the first type is based on the stress strain calculation. So whatever the definitions we have discussed, tensile stress, compressive stress, definition of strain, linear strain, lateral strain, based on that we have to solve the numericals. Therefore stress strain calculation. Then deformation calculation. In the today's lecture we have discussed about the deformation due to the external load P, that is delta L is equal to PL upon A, and deformation due to the self weight, delta L is equal to WL square upon 2E. So the two formulas we have discussed. Based on that also we have to solve the numericals. Then third one is a composite bars. So what is meant by the composite bars? One hint I have given. If more than one materials are combined together, for example, steel and aluminum, they are combined together. Brass and copper, they are combined together. So that material is not called as a steel bar. That material is not called as a copper bar. So if the more than one materials are combined together and from that one component is prepared, then that structure is called as a composite bar, or that structure is called as a composite structure, because definition of composite is based on this only. If more than one materials are combined together, then that material becomes composite material. So based on that composite structure also we have to solve the numericals. In that composite structure, either we have to calculate the stress values or we have to calculate the deformation values. Then type number 4, volumetric stress strain, change in volume, change in dimensions. Bulk modulus. If you remind the definition of bulk modulus, what is the definition of bulk modulus? Can anybody tell me? What is the definition of K? What is the definition of K?
It is the ratio of direct stress to volumetric strain.
It is the ratio of
Direct stress to volumetric strain.
not direct stress. Direct stress is applicable for the Young's modulus. Direct stress आपण नॉर्मल स्ट्रेस म्हणतोय, त्या नॉर्मल स्ट्रेसलाच आपण लिनियर स्ट्रेस म्हणतोय. मग ते यंग's मॉड्युलस झाला ना. व्हॉल्यूमेट्रिक स्ट्रेसचं काय असणार आहे? नेम इट सेल्फ सजेस्ट दॅट K is equal to stress upon strain. Correct. Stress upon strain, this is the common definition, but K is equal to volumetric stress upon volumetric strain. K is equal to sigma V upon EV. आणि E ची डेफिनेशन काय येते? तर सिग्मा अपॉन E. ह्याच्यामध्ये प्रिफिक्स V लिहिले दोन्हीला पण केला, म्हणजे हा व्हॉल्यूमेट्रिक स्ट्रेस आहे आणि हा व्हॉल्यूमेट्रिक स्ट्रेन आहे. आणि ह्या ठिकाणी जर आपल्याला व्हॉल्यूमेट्रिक स्ट्रेन काढायचा असेल तर त्याचा फॉर्म्युला काय असणार आहे? चेंज इन व्हॉल्यूम अपॉन ओरिजिनल व्हॉल्यूम. आणि खालच्या कंडिशन मध्ये जर स्ट्रेन काढायचा असेल तर चेंज इन लेंथ अपॉन ओरिजिनल लेंथ. खालच्या ह्याच्यामध्ये फक्त वन डायमेन्शनल बॉडी आपण कन्सिडर केलेले आहे, ज्या ठिकाणी फक्त लेंथ चेंज होते, पण ह्याच्या ठिकाणी लेंथ पण चेंज होते, विड्थ पण चेंज होते आणि डेप्थ पण चेंज होते. सो दिस इज द डिफरन्स बिटवीन के अँड ई. ई मधला जो काय हा स्ट्रेस आहे, ह्या स्ट्रेसला आपण टेन्साइल स्ट्रेस पण म्हणू शकतो, कॉम्प्रेसिव्ह पण म्हणू शकतो, नॉर्मल स्ट्रेस पण म्हणू शकतो आणि लिनियर स्ट्रेस पण म्हणू शकतो. व्हाय? बिकॉज इट इज डेव्हलप्ड इन द डायरेक्शन ऑफ फोर्स. बट हियर व्हॉल्यूमेट्रिक स्ट्रेस means the force is applied in x direction, but body will get change in all the three direction. म्हणजे तीन डायरेक्शन मध्ये चेंज झाले, म्हणजे त्या ठिकाणी लेंथ पण चेंज झाले, विड्थ पण चेंज झाले आणि डेप्थ पण चेंज झाले. त्यामुळे ह्या ठिकाणचा स्ट्रेस तुमचा कुठला असणार आहे? व्हॉल्यूमेट्रिक स्ट्रेस असणार आहे. आणि स्ट्रेन कुठला असणार आहे? व्हॉल्यूमेट्रिक स्ट्रेस असणार आहे. मग युअर type number 4 is totally based on this calculation only. Either we have to calculate the volumetric stress, volumetric strain, change in dimension means delta L, delta W, delta D, or change in volume as a delta V. Okay, this is type number 4, which is totally related with the K factor. Which is totally related with the K factor. And maximum times this capital E we have to use in the type number 1, type number 2, and type number 3. Because in type number 1, 2, 3, we are applying the force in only one direction. Therefore, that stress will be the either tensile, compressive, normal stress, or direct stress, or common word linear stress. Linear stress means ज्या डायरेक्शन मध्ये फोर्स अप्लाय केलाय त्याच डायरेक्शन मध्ये इंड्यूस झालेल्या स्ट्रेसला लिनियर स्ट्रेस म्हणतो. त्याच पद्धतीनं त्याच डायरेक्शन मध्ये इंड्यूस झालेल्या स्ट्रेनला हा लिनियर स्ट्रेस. And your type number 4 is totally correlated with the K factor, that is bulk modulus K. Then elastic constant, type number 5. Just now we have discussed the three relations. E is equal to 3K in bracket 1 minus 2 mu. E is equal to 2G in bracket 1 plus mu, and E is equal to 9kg divided by G plus 3K or 3K plus G. Based on these three relations, we have to solve the numericals as a type number 5. And again, type number 6, Poisson's ratio. In that elastic constants, mu is also there. E is equal to 3K in bracket 1 minus 2 mu, 1 plus mu. Also, we are having the separate formula. Mu is equal to lateral strain upon linear strain. So based on that Poisson's ratio calculation, also we have to solve the numericals. So these are the 6 to 7 variety of the numericals are there, which we have to solve in the chapter number 1. And very, very simple problems are there. Before starting that particular type, I will give the list of the formulas, and only by using that formulas only we can solve the numericals. While solving the numericals, the things are important for your online examination. That also I will tell, because in maybe in online examination such big numericals are not asked, but whatever the small numericals are there, that is also asked in the online examinations. Some small problem is given, and they have asked to find out the Poisson's ratio, and 4 options will be given: 0.25, 0.3, 0.2, 0.4. So in that case, we have to solve that particular numerical immediately, and immediately we have to find out the Poisson's ratio. So such types of the small numericals are also asked in the online examination or in the form of objective questions. So that also we will cover. We will take some sample numericals, because exam is not conducted physically, it is totally online. So we will take variety of the problems. So what is important for the online examinations, and through this you will get clear all the important concepts. Okay, so these are the variety of the numericals which we have to solve in the chapter number 1. Okay, we will start with the type number 1. So write down, I hope you have taken this part also, and now you have to write down the heading in your notebook. That is type number 1, problems on stress strain calculation. Problems on stress strain calculation, and this is the list of the formulas. Whenever we have to solve the problems based on the stress strain calculation, deformation calculation, so these are the 6 to 7 problems which we have to use during the calculation. So write down the heading, type number 1, problems on stress strain calculation. Below that, write down the list of the formulas. In that, the first formula is applicable. What is the first formula? Definition of stress. Stress is equal to force upon area. Stress is equal to force upon area, that is P upon A. So this force means, maybe we can consider it as a external load which is applied along the axis. This P represents the external load which is applied along the axis. So sigma is equal to P upon Is the screen visible and voice is audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so due to some network problem, I think screen was not visible. So write down the list of the formulas. Stress, force upon area. Strain, change in length upon original length, or change in dimensions upon on original dimension. So change in dimension is indicated by delta L upon L. Same formula we can write as per the parameter given. In some circular rods, diameter is there, so change in diameter upon original diameter. Like that also formula becomes variable. So you have to please keep the basic formula of the strain. Change in dimension upon original dimension. Which dimension is given? We don't have. If length is given, then it becomes delta L upon L. If diameter is given, then it becomes delta D upon D. If width is given, delta W upon W. Depth is given, delta T upon capital T. Like that, the formula will be variable. Then take capital E is equal to stress upon strain. So it becomes linear stress upon linear strain. Because here, whatever the force we are applying, that force is applied along the axis. And along the axis, whatever the strain is there, that strain is linear strain. We have discussed yesterday difference between linear and lateral. मग त्या डायरेक्शन मध्ये स्ट्रेन इंड्यूस होत असेल तर त्याच डायरेक्शन मध्ये स्ट्रेस इंड्यूस होतो. त्या स्ट्रेसला पण आपण काय म्हणू शकतो? लिनियर स्ट्रेस म्हणू शकतो. Or we can call it as a tensile if it is in tensile condition, or we can call it as a compressive if it is in compressive condition. And both tensile and compressive is called as a normal stress. Why? Because it is perpendicular to the cross sectional area. Then formula number 4, deformation due to the external load. In front of that, write down external load. And formula number 5, self weight. Formula number 5, self weight. Then factor of safety, maximum stress upon working stress. Write down this formula also. Maximum stress upon working stress. Cross sectional area formulas you have. If circular cross sectional area is given and solid rod, capital A is equal to pi by 4 into capital D square. This is for solid rod. If rod is hollow, then two diameters are there. Pi by 4 into capital D square minus small d square. This is for hollow. Please take this particular formula is also in your notebook. Cross sectional areas for the circular sections. In that, if solid, only one diameter. If there is a hollow, two diameters. External diameter minus internal diameter. External diameter is indicated by capital D and internal diameter is indicated by small d. Or we can write DO. DO means outside diameter and capital DI means internal diameter. Like that also we can write. For the square, we are having the cross sectional area formula L into L because all the sides are equal. For the rectangular, L into B. Like that, basic formulas are there. Then write down this conversion part because in statement of the problems, capital E value will be given as a constant parameter. Capital E value will be given as a constant parameter. Sometimes it is given in Newton per mm square. So whenever we have to calculate the unknown parameter, for example, if I have to calculate the stress value, always try to calculate the stress value in Newton per mm square only. But sometimes to calculate that stress, force is given in kilonewton, cross-sectional area is given in centimeter. So try to convert that force in Newton by multiplying by 10 raised to 3. If length is given in meter, multiply by 1000, convert in mm. If length is given in centimeter, multiply by 10, convert it in mm. So you will get all the values in required answer. Stress, Newton per mm square, cross-sectional area, mm square, Young's modulus, Newton per mm square. So before solving the problems, convert all the values as per the requirement, and then only you have to go for the solution. So during solving the problems, sometimes the Young's modulus value is given in gigapascal. Value of G is given in gigapascal. Sometimes it is given in megapascal. Sometimes it is given in mega Newton per meter square. Then how to convert it in Newton per mm square? So for that purpose, this conversion is very important. So what is first? 1 gigapascal is equal to, write down, 10 raised to 9 Newton per meter square. 10 raised to 9 Newton per mm square, Newton per meter square. आणि तो जर mm square मध्ये जर केला तर कसा आहे बघा, 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square. काय केलं बघा, 10 raised to 9 Newton per मीटर स्क्वेअर. आता न्यूटन तर आलेला आहे पण इथे mm स्क्वेअर नाहीये. सो व्हॉट वी हॅव टू डू, वी हॅव टू कन्वर्ट इट. सो दिस 10 raised to 9 as it is, 10 raised to 9 as it is, न्यूटन as it is. मीटर स्क्वेअरचा आपल्याला mm स्क्वेअर मध्ये करायचं आहे. मग मीटरचं mm करण्यासाठी काय करावं लागणार आपल्याला, 10 raised to 3 न मल्टिप्लाय करावं लागणार आणि त्याचा स्क्वेअर आणि त्याचा स्क्वेअर. मग काय झालं, 10 raised to 9 divided by 10 raised to 6. मग हा 10 raised to 9 हे 10 raised to 6 जर वर घेतला आपण, खालच्या बाजूला ते डिवाइड आहे, वरच्या बाजूला ते काय होणार, मल्टिप्लाय होणार. 10 raised to 6 इट बिकम्स मायनस. सो प्लस 9 मायनस 6 प्लस 3, सो इट बिकम्स 10 raised to 3. मग तो काय आला, 10 raised to 3 न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर. One thing you can keep in mind, if the value is given in gigapascal, त्या दिलेल्या व्हॅल्यूला फक्त 10 raised to 3 ने आपल्याला काय करायचंय, मल्टिप्लाय करायचं. फॉर एक्झाम्पल गिवन, टेक E is equal to 200 gigapascal. How to write in Newton per mm square? Simply, immediately, E is equal to 200 into 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square. Don't think about that and don't do the conversion there. माहित आहे आपल्याला 1 gigapascal is equal to 10 raised to 9 न्यूटन पर मीटर स्क्वेअर आहे. त्या न्यूटन पर मीटर स्क्वेअरचा आपण परत 10 raised to 3 न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर केलेला आहे. मग आलेल्या व्हॅल्यूला जर आपण डायरेक्टली 10 raised to 3 ने मल्टिप्लाय केलं तर ती व्हॅल्यू डायरेक्ट तुमचे न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर मध्ये काय होणार आहे, कन्वर्ट होणार. Okay, then second, megapascal. 1 megapascal is equal to 1 Newton per mm square. Sometimes stress is given. Sigma is equal to 150 megapascal. मग हा कशामध्ये आपल्याला, कारण आपल्याला जर स्ट्रेस जर पुढे वापरायचा असेल कुठल्या गोष्टीसाठी तर तो न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर मध्ये असणारच वापरला पाहिजे. इमिडिएटली यू हॅव टू थिंक 1 megapascal means 1 Newton per mm square. Therefore sigma is equal to 150 Newton per mm square. Immediately you have to remind this particular conversion. Then third, 1 mega Newton per meter square is equal to 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square. 1 mega Newton per meter square is equal to 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square. And here, if I will convert it in Newton per mm square, so here it becomes again 1 Newton per mm square, because 10 raised to 6 जसं आपण 10 raised to 9 चा आपण केलं तसं ह्या 10 raised to 6 जरी आपण केलं तर त्याच्यामध्ये काय होणार आहे बघा, ही 10 raised to 6 वरच्या बाजूला राहणार आहे. खालचं मीटरचं mm करण्यासाठी 10 raised to 3 आणि त्याचा स्क्वेअर म्हणजे 10 raised to 6 झालं. मग हे 10 raised to 6 आहे असं खालचं वर घेतलं 10 raised to -6 it becomes 0. You will get 1 Newton per mm square. And maximum times in the examination the value of E is given in a gigapascal. 200 gigapascal, 210 gigapascal, 180 gigapascal, 190 gigapascal. So whatever the value is given in gigapascal, to that value you have to just multiply by 10 raised to 3 and convert it in Newton per mm square. And take that Newton per mm square value as it is for the further calculation. Getting? So this is the conversion part. So whenever the force is given in Newton, convert it in. So whenever force is given in kilonewton, convert it in Newton, multiply by 10 raised to 3. Check all the length, check all the diameters, check all the dimensions. If it is given in centimeter, if it is given in mm, try to convert all the parameters in mm. So you will get all the answers maybe in Newton per mm square, in mm, like that. Okay, so before solving the numericals, first of all, convert all the parameters in the required format, in the required values, and then only you have to go for the calculation. If you convert kilonewton to Newton and you can keep the centimeters as it is, then it becomes very confusion. So convert all the parameters in Newton wherever it is required, convert all the parameters in Newton per mm square wherever it is required, convert all the dimensions in mm if it is given in centimeter, meter, and then write or use that converted values in the calculation part. Getting? So this is the list of the formulas for the type number 1, that is problems on the stress strain calculation. Sigma value, then strain value, then Young's modulus, deformation formulas, factor of safety, conversion part, how the gigapascal is converted in Newton per mm square, only just multiply by 10 raised to 3. If megapascal is given, as it is, you have to write, only change the sign megapascal to Newton per mm square. 1 mega Newton per meter square so आपण conversion केलं, again it becomes 1 Newton per mm square. So take this particular, all the list of the formulas, all the conversion factors, in your notebook, it becomes very useful for solving the numericals. Okay, have you taken this particular list of the formulas in your notebook? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so with this list of the formulas, today we will stop here. Actual numericals we will start in the next lecture. Okay, thank you very much.